Ladies and gentlemen, we are now gathered to induct the newest member of the Sportswire Radio Hall of Fame. But before I induct the newest member of the Sportswire Radio Hall of Fame, I'd like to give a moment of silence to a friend of Sportswire Radio who's going through some difficult times, and especially on this day today, our friend Alfie Nerds,
Yeah.
who he lost his grandfather. We just want to make
It
sure
was his
father, his
father. It was his
father,
father.
his
Yeah.
father. I want to make sure that we give his thoughts and prayers out to his family. And if you'd like to join me for a moment to remember the father of Alfie Nerds, I would appreciate it. So please join me now, ladies and gentlemen, for those that are listening and watching on Sportswire Radio, for a moment of silence for Alfie Nerds, his family, due to the passing of his father. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Now, let's get back to inducting our newest member of the Sportswire Radio Hall of Fame. And I couldn't think of a better person to be our final member of our sixth class here, and our 60th member, the Big 6-0. And in many ways, he's kind of been an important part to Sportswire Radio over the years. As a matter of fact, he always made things a little more classy, more first class like each time he would come on to Sportswire Radio. And for many reasons. Well, one of the more important reasons was for 581 days, he was the Immortal Fighting Champion, where he wound up defending it in different promotions and defending it in places that many people would never expected that title to be defended. But when I think about the run of Sportswire Radio that we've had over the past 5 years, I'm almost certain in this, and that he's one of the longest running champions that we had ever had come onto the platform. And that in itself should certainly make him a Hall of Famer. But also when you think about his own journey that started when he was a young boy, first watching WWF, watching wrestling in the Attitude Era, and thinking about how this was something he wanted to do, but it wasn't quite a way for him to do it. But he didn't give up. He was persistent and kept his dreams always with him, which has led him to some of the biggest stages and has led him to places that he only dreamed of. And as a matter of fact, ladies and gentlemen, it was a short while ago. He had just posted a photo on his Facebook page of the place that he grew up for the first 17 years of his life. And that's important, ladies and gentlemen, because think of where he grew up to where he is now. Not only about to be the final member of our sixth class in the Sportswire Radio Hall of Fame, but also arguably about to wrestle in maybe two of the biggest shows in his career, which we're going to talk about tonight. One next week, next Friday, right before WrestleMania, at Bolton Town Wrestling against Maverick Matt Williams, but also, most importantly, coming up this Saturday for one of the companies that has always been synonymous with Sportswire Radio in Colory Championship Wrestling, in Miners Mania 3, and arguably against somebody that maybe looks like him but goes about it in a different way. And something tells me, hopefully, he doesn't pop the bottle of champagne over his head, but it certainly at least makes sure he gets that victory against Johnny Flashback in Miners Mania 3. We're going to talk a lot about that. Plus, also a match against a guy, Adam Bowler. Well, we'll talk about that later on. But when I think about the journey of our newest member of the Sportswire Radio Hall of Fame, in many ways, he's been one of the definitions of all wrestling matters, as he's gone out and wrestled in shows that have been out there for those that may not necessarily have wanted or thought they could get involved in wrestling, but he went out there and did it. He went out there and did it his way. He didn't maybe have the most unique look or maybe the most look that everybody wants, but he did it in a way that showed how up and down the scene he traveled in thousands of pounds, thousands of miles that he's logged in his career, it's led him to the stages, most notably where he is today. But he's also, in many ways, what he's done is make himself an example of honesty, straightforwardness, and also do it for the right reasons. Do it because he loves this sport and also have built bonds with many of the people that he's wrestled with. And especially one person I'd like to single out that he's been on this platform with over the past year to year and a half. And that's Dalton Garrett, the Nomad Dalton Garrett, his tag team partner, who's going to be in the ring this Saturday also at Miners Mania
Yes.
3. And I'm sure I'll bring that up. And maybe Champagne Charlie goes about it a different way in his match. But I'll still, nevertheless, talk about Dalton Garrett's match against Adrian Black. But I think in what the reason our newest member of the Sportswire Radio Hall of Fame is here is especially because of that bond he has built with Dalton Garrett the Nomad. They've traveled up and down the scene here over the past year to year and a half, and they've been able to go to town after town and become more than a tag team. They've become brothers. And in fact,
I'm
ladies
right.
and gentlemen, if you've been a fan of Sportswire Radio over the years, you've seen that here, and you've seen from some of the things that the Nomad Dalton Garrett had said. And thankfully, we're so glad he's doing well currently. And we're so glad we get a chance to see him in CCW finally, where all wrestling truly matters. As after all, CCW's had the tag All Wrestling Matters before we did. And it's so good to see that Champagne Charlie and the Nomad Dalton Garrett will get to be on arguably their biggest stage to date coming up this weekend. Even after all, they do it in different ways. But ladies and gentlemen, over the past 5 years, I've had the fortune and privilege to speak with wrestlers from all over the world. Whether it's been in the UK, whether it's been in the underground, professional wrestlers like Dean Allmark, RP Davis, independent wrestlers, backyard wrestlers, and who knows whatever else in between. But I can truly say that when I think about Champagne Charlie, I've always thought he's been one of the most, I would say, like minded people that I've met over the past 5 years, not only in the wrestling business, but just in general, of people that have come on to Sportswire Radio. I've always found that Champagne Charlie may only be not only a Hall of Fame person in the ring, but outside the ring. He's always been to me somebody that's the definition of a Hall of Famer. Well, certainly, sure. 581 days as the Immortal Fighting Champion. That definitely qualified you to be in the Hall of Fame off the bat. And he even did an interview not too long ago in his own hometown that generated almost 1,500 views on YouTube. Yes,
That
that
still
def-
shocks me. Yeah.
that definitely gets you in the Hall of Fame for sure. We'll definitely talk about, although it's not quite as big as the Tribal Cheese, some of the stuff he does on YouTube with his reels. I'll
Yeah. Yeah.
definitely get to him. I'm definitely, by the way, I am wearing his shirt, by the way. So I want to give a big shout out to the Tribal Cheese. Also, I should probably, as your master of ceremonies here, as the owner of Sportswire Radio, of course, the man that put the Hall of Fame together, the Reverend Tom Bryce, you actually got into the Hall of Fame before the Tribal Cheese. But I won't hold that against you. I won't hold that against you, or certainly won't hold that against him. Just a matter of scheduling and timing. We did put a day in his honor, so not just want to put that out there, ladies and gentlemen. But I will say that Champagne Charlie is definitely one of the guys I always root for, even though I'm technically supposed to be impartial. But I'm so glad to see that Champagne Charlie is back in the ring. And I'm so glad that we get to see him for the first time officially in Colory Championship Wrestling. Yes, we've seen the first class in Carnage Championship Wrestling. Yes, we've seen you guys there in the past, but to see you here on the biggest stage, and I couldn't think, ladies and gentlemen, of a better way than to resume coverage here in UK wrestling by getting you not only ready for Miners Mania 3, but by inducting a man who's making his debut in Colory Championship Wrestling at the biggest show maybe in history in Champagne Charlie. And I'll certainly have a lot more to say on Colory Championship Wrestling. I'll certainly have a lot more to say on Miners Mania 3. But I could go on and on and on about our newest member of the Sportswire Radio Hall of Fame. As a matter of fact, because he hasn't been on here in almost about a year, I will probably do that over the next 90 minutes or so. And I'm also wanting to point out, ladies and gentlemen, I hope that this will be his best birthday gift yet this week, because we didn't get a chance to have him on yesterday, because yesterday, ladies and gentlemen, it was actually Champagne Charlie's birthday. So I hope
Yeah.
that in addition to inducting him into the Sportswire Radio Hall of Fame in a few minutes, you'll join me in wishing him a very happy birthday. And I hope that this will be his best birthday yet, because I have no doubt that this is going to be quite a week coming up for him, especially if some of the places I have wrestled and what he does best. So I hope that you join me in popping a bottle of champagne, although I'm not going to be able to pop one on the air because I have my microphone in my hand. But I would hope, ladies and gentlemen, that you pop a bottle of champagne wherever you are watching this, and officially congratulating our newest member of the Sportswire Radio Hall of Fame, our final member of our sixth class and our 60th member, the Big 60. Yes, he's not 60 years old just yet. He'll get there one day, a
No.
long time from now. Certainly,
Yeah.
maybe Rico Justice might be 60 years old. I'm just kidding. It was a joke. Obviously, I'm not going to go there. I'm not going to go there with Ronnie Thatcher's situation, the Thatcher brothers with Rico and A-Dog. I'll certainly wish them all the best. But I have said enough about my friend, your friend, our newest member of the Sportswire Radio Hall of Fame, Champagne Charlie. And I'll also have something to present Champagne Charlie, because many of the inductees in the Sportswire Radio Hall of Fame have actually gotten this on, although a few of them, for whatever reason, got it when I was on a podcast of theirs. But I'll certainly save that for a different time and a different place. But I think, Charlie, it's been a long time since we've had you on. I forgot how to do this. I
It's
think,
good to be back.
and I think it's actually a lot better, these intros, since you last were on the show with the Nomad Dalton Garrett. So I'm actually going to give it to you officially. I'm going to give you that Hall of Fame like introduction that I'm wanting to do. You are certainly wanting to hear, and everybody in CCW that's getting to hear you for the first time wants to. So, ladies and gentlemen, it is my absolute honor to induct the newest member of the Sportswire Radio Hall of Fame, our final member of our sixth class and our 60th member, Champagne Charlie. And Champagne Charlie are about to get that introduction that everybody's waiting for. So let's get right to it and to kick off our coverage of Miners Mania 3, because all wrestling matters here on Sportswire Radio. So with that, without further ado, here on the Sports Report, number one sports show, the newest member of the Sportswire Radio Hall of Fame, our final member of our sixth class, our 60th member. He is from the first class. His name is, simply put, the happy birthday belated boy, Champagne Charlie. Congratulations, my friend. You're the newest member of the Sportswire Radio Hall of Fame.
I am truly honored, and it's when you told me that you wanted me to be an inductee into your Hall of Fame, like I said, I was really taken aback. It's really quite something. So I'm very, very pleased, and it's very emotional actually, all the stuff you said. So it's very, 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 very kind of you to say all that kind of stuff about me.
No, I tried. I wanted to, and I want to say hello to a lot of people first, and we'll certainly get to Miners Mania. I want to get to BTW. I want to get to some Adam Bowler in the ring. I'll certainly leave that for later.
Yeah.
But I guess in a way, I wanted to. What I've tried to do with these speeches. Obviously, we've had a who's who of people. James Barris is in the Hall of Fame, so you're joining Mr. Barris. Jam
Yeah.
Dog's in the Hall of Fame. Mr. Carnage is in the Hall of Fame. Ronnie Thatcher's in the Hall of Fame. So there's a lot of people from the
Quite, it's a
CCW
quite
locker room.
interesting company, that's for
It's you
sure.
got some interesting company. Dean Allmark's in the Hall of Fame. R.P. Davis is in the Hall of Fame. Bentley, by the way, a colleague of yours, who's the BTW champion, he's
BTW
in the Hall
champion,
of Fame. So
yes.
we've got some great people, not just in the world of, let's say, sports or backyard wrestling, underground wrestling, but also in British wrestling, because that's where I've cut my teeth. But I wanted to kind of take people on a journey from when you started as a fan watching wrestling back in 1999, 2000, and then, the period of time that you didn't get a chance to really achieve your dreams, and then go out there and finally, when you basically decided, hey, you know what, I'm going to go out there and learn this, or you were with a friend and you went to a local gym, and you didn't have those opportunities to want to go achieve your dreams later on, but you did it. You didn't give up. You kept your dreams going, and it led you to becoming a 581-day champion. Think about that, ladies and gentlemen. That's Hall of Fame in itself. And then, the bond that you've had with the Nomad Dalton Garrett, the emotional interview that we had the last time, I believe you were
Yeah.
here with Dalton Garrett, and, what you guys have done, and the thousands of miles that you've, gone up with each other, up and down the road, and, the British wrestling independent scene, that, speaks volumes. And I think that's why, people ask me all the time. They say, Tom, well, I'm not sure I'm a Hall of Fame. We had a guy kind of like you, a colleague in a way from America here in the middle Atlantic of the United States, and Van Hansen, and kind of like you, an independent wrestler for
Yeah.
a long period of time. And he was like, well, I don't know if I'm a Hall of Famer. Well, I know. I say, you're absolutely a Hall of Famer, because you've gone out there like you, Champagne Charlie, put your body on the line for really the love of this sport. You've gone out there, you've done it because you believe in this. You go out there and you wanted to do it your own way. And that's why you're absolutely a Hall of Famer. And that's why you deserve to be in the same categories with the likes of an R.P. Davis, the only person in the entire country of Britain to have been a major boxing and wrestling world champion. Dean Allmark.
Yeah.
Let's not even say anything else. Say no more about Dean Allmark.
Mm.
Bentley, obviously Bentley 2 belts. I mean, you're going to be with the show on Bentley next Friday. I mean, there's a whole list
Yes.
of other people that you belong to be there with. And I think that's why I wanted to put you in this Hall of Fame. And I always enjoyed our interviews. And like I said off the air, you're one of the guys I truly root for. You're one of the good guys, I think, in this sport, quote unquote, to quote one of my
Well,
friends in the state of Michigan. I'm going to get to you in a second, but I really wanted this moment. I wish I could have had it on your birthday, but you basically, were celebrating, probably
yeah, of
popping bottles of
course.
champagne.
Yeah,
But
indeed.
I'm gonna let you now have the floor and say, Charlie, for those that are listening and watching on Sportswire Radio, especially for those that are fans of yours, and well, we do at best for all wrestling matters, and especially for the locker rooms that you've been in, especially in CCW, Bolton Town Wrestling, where you're going to make your debut next Friday. What does it
Yeah.
officially mean to you now to be the newest member of the Sportswire Radio Hall of Fame?
It's a great honor, the fact that you and others feel that I've done enough to do this, like the work I've put in, it really makes it feel all worthwhile, because listen, people in this business they could be doing it for 2 years, they could be doing it for 20 years. Wrestlers are their own biggest critics. That's the actual truth. I mean, never mind people like Dave Meltzer or any other reviewer who review matches. Wrestlers are always going to question themselves of, was that a good
Who's Dave
match?
Meltzer again, by the way? I don't know anything about him.
But people are always going to question themselves of whether it was a good enough match. Could I have done more? Should I have eat smarter or train harder? It's one of those constants. It's a constant, merry-go-round that you can't get off.
And I said
So
that in the
yeah,
speech. I said, listen, maybe you don't have the look that everybody looks for, but you know what? You've done it your way. You were a 581-day champion, and you defended that championship in different places. You were on shows where people of all backgrounds actually got to wrestle. I think
yeah.
that speaks volumes, and I think that, to me, that's what matters most. I was told a long time ago, as long as you're having fun, as long as other people around you are having fun, and you made others around you better, that's what counts. It doesn't matter about anything else.
Well, here's the thing: Immortal Wrestling, sadly, don't get that many shows in 1 year.
I know.
They said, yeah. So whilst I was the champion, it felt redundant not defending the belt. If you're a champion, you need to actually put in the effort to not only get that belt some prestige, but you're raising the flag for the company that you're representing as well. But not only that, you're giving others opportunities a chance by those who I defend the title against. It's giving them the opportunity to get themselves noticed by Immortal or anywhere else for that
And whether
matter.
listen, you whether it was in DKW or any other promotion you were in, you went out there and you put your body on the line. And I say it all the time, just like when Van Hansen got inducted into the Hall of Fame on Tuesday with Kid Mike. It
Yeah,
doesn't matter to me. You put your body on the line. You absolutely deserve to be recognized. And I think that independent wrestlers, I think that other forms of wrestlers, aside from WWE, AEW, Impact, MLW, should be recognized more often. And as I continue to say it all the time, Sportswire will be that place. We will be that place for all wrestling matters. And I hope you don't tear up on me because I see you kind of blowing your nose there. But
yeah. I just got a cold currently.
oh, I hope you feel better. I hope you feel better. I think the first
No,
time we actually
it's fine. It's just it's that time of year. You're changing the seasons. Everyone's been getting coughs and runny noses and stuff like that. So
it's crazy. Yeah, I kind of went through that last week. Let me say
yeah.
hello to a bunch of people here. First of all, want to say hello to my buddy Nate, who actually is joining because last night, by the way, you have tough shoes to fill. I just had on the one and only Jimmy Controversy, who wrestles for GTS Pro Wrestling Venom. He's the CEO there, and he's actually wrestled the guy Tommy Dreamer. In fact, Tommy Dreamer actually mentioned Jimmy Controversy on his podcast, actually. Not his most recent, but his one prior. So, yeah. Jimmy's a big supporter of mine, and the fact that Nate subbed I really appreciate that. Could I interview Iris Spiral? Possibly, yes, I actually could. She actually just got in touch with me. So he also wants to say, nice to meet you. It's been a while. I want to say hello to Michael Knowles. It's been a while, Michael, because, well, we're certainly non-stopping, never stopping, but certainly I'm going to leave that for a different part of a different interview, differently down the road. But it's so good to see Champagne Charlie back, and also he's a new fan. Thank you, Nathan. Hope you also check out Champagne Charlie. He's on Instagram. I'm going to make sure you follow him on Instagram because I actually have his link, and also our friends over at CCW. You can follow Charlie here on Instagram, Charlie Vintage 92, Champagne Charlie Vintage 92. Please go out there and support him. He's definitely one of my favorites for a long time. And also says, nice to meet you. Want to say hello to my friend from Instagram. Okay. I would be a fan. Mason Black. We know who you are, Mason. Nice to meet you, Mason. I definitely have heard the name before. So thank you for tuning in. A kind of funny one here. Champagne Charlie versus Chainsaw Charlie. Chainsaw Charlie. I think he's thinking about Terry Funk, right?
One knows, but,
Terry Funk. That's WrestleMania 14, right? That was the tag team championship, man.
Yeah, the late great Terry Funk. Yeah.
Yeah, it's very sad. But and I broke my microphone, probably on the intro. Yes. To be fair, I haven't been because my dad was in the hospital. He's back home now, but yeah, glad to be back. Well, thank you for being back on the streams.
I'm glad he's okay. Well, I'm glad he's at home and doing okay.
Me too, Michael. Glad you're doing well and glad to see you back on Sportswire. In fact, I'm going to break it here real quick. I hope you're here with us, Michael, next Thursday because I've got the one and only Mustafa Khan live next Thursday. Yep, Mustafa Khan. Yep, Mustafa Khan is here live next Thursday on Sportswire Radio, and apparently he's got a lot to say. He's got a lot of things he wants to talk about, and he's got a microphone. And if you thought CM Punk was dangerous with a microphone, wait until you see what Mustafa Khan has to say live on Sports already. Yeah, we'll have to see. Oh, and there's more announcements ahead, but we'll certainly get to that. But I do want to talk a lot about CCW. I want to get to Miners Mania, your formal debut into CCW. I want to get also into Bolton Town because I've done a lot with Bolton Town over the years. But before anything, I was wondering, Charlotte, because we've had a lot of people over the years, and I will certainly, talk about maybe some of the things that mean most to you. But I was wondering, Charlie, since it is technically your post-birthday celebration still, I was wondering for those that are listening and watching on Sportswire Radio, where all wrestling matters, Champagne Charlie, could I actually present to you something that would show you officially in the Sportswire Radio Hall of Fame? So I'm glad you said yes, because I actually wanted to present to you on the stream.
Go ahead, yeah.
Well, there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. You are officially now Champagne Charlie for those that are listening on Sportswire Radio, where all wrestling matters, you are our newest member of the Sportswire Radio Hall of Fame, and you can see it here. You've got a little
Yeah,
certificate. You've got my name, the date. You've got our logo, everything else in between. And congratulations, Charlie.
awesome,
And
awesome,
hopefully
man.
this will make up for not having you on for your birthday yesterday.
That's perfectly fine. But that is wonderful. Thank you so much.
And I'll be sure to send that to you when we're off the air so you can have the official copy of it. And congratulations. Thank you
Thank
for
you.
all that you do for this great sport. And I wanted you to have that. And want to say hello to another Hall of Famer, our buddies out there in DKW in the state of Ohio. They,
Yeah,
Mr. Dark.
a different DKW.
Not quite the DKW that you wrestled
No,
with
no,
not too
yeah,
long ago. And I'm not going to bring up that match, by the way, because I want to
yeah.
talk about stuff where I'm going to see you get some big wins for it. But definitely want to say hello to Mr. Darkron. Mr. Darkron is also one half of the
So,
IMF Tag Team Champions in the state of Iowa. They have a big
wow,
show coming up next Friday. They're in a 400-seat venue, and I hear through the grapevine they're going to be going to bigger venues soon. So
that's
maybe
quite
one day.
something. Hopefully,
Yep.
one day. Hey, listen, I'd love the opportunity to get to the States one day. I really would. You know, it'd be
I would
a
love to see you there. I would love to see maybe you and the Nomad Dalton Garrett. Maybe the first class against the Foundations, Darkon and Matthew Forsaken. Maybe you guys against Omen Black and Soldier GP. Maybe endless opportunities. Who knows? I mean,
who knows, indeed. Yeah,
anything could happen. Listen, I would love to see that.
yeah.
But also want to say hello to the man, by the way, who could very well
Ah,
be he could very well be putting an end to a career of a Hall of Famer you share now this obviously honor with, and Mr. Jam Dog himself. And Mr. Dagan, by the way, I had caught on one of Ronnie Thatcher's most recent shows that he actually has his money on you against Johnny Flashback. And of course he would, because Prince Dagan had defeated Johnny Flashback a few months back in a 30-minute Iron Man match. So anything you want to say to Mr.
yes.
Dagan?
Well, yeah, but he's the champion for a reason, isn't he? You know, so
I said it. I said it here on Sportswire. He has been the most dominant underground champion CCW has had. There's been, how can I put this in a nice way? There's been some real clunkers as champions that CCW has had, some real clunkers. Prince Dagan has not been a clunker. Let me just put it that way.
Well, it's great to have that endorsement that going into this match. People have noted there's certain similarities between myself and Johnny Flashback. You know, we're both kind of very interesting, flamboyant characters. We both have long.
I did kind of mention that, by the way. I mentioned it as well.
We both have quite long hair, and we seem
you grew your hair back, thankfully, by the way.
Thank God, yes.
Because I was not going to bring that up, by the way, and I was thinking about it.
Worst thing, the worst judgment of my life, honestly.
You know, I'm so glad you said that, because I was like, "What is he doing?" He looked good with the hair, but thankfully you've grown it.
I tried something, it failed. That's at least I can.
Well, that's why you're in the Hall of Fame, because you grew your hair back. I'm only kidding, by the way. I'm only kidding.
Yeah. But yes, but anyway, also with me and Johnny Flashback as well, we both seem to have the kind of the old school kind of style. You know, we both that's the thing. So when this match was booked, I was told, basically, you guys, with this, the reason why we're doing this is we want to see some proper old school wrestling. And I think that's why, I don't know if you saw this, but I saw a post, they've now made this match, I believe, a submissions match, because they want to see.
I actually did see that, and I wanted to talk to you about that. And one thing I want to say real quickly, I'm going to definitely come back to it, that I actually think there is one difference though between you and him, is that you have the size advantage. I think that the size advantage, I didn't realize, I was watching a lot of your footage, because you've wrestled in some other promotions that don't exist anymore, that you
sadly,
and I didn't realize this, and I was going back, and I was like, okay, and Johnny I know very well, because he's been a part of CCW over the past several months, and I've seen his stuff, but you do have the size advantage, and I think that that's where things could really play very well into your favor, because of that size advantage.
Yeah, I don't know how tall or how much Johnny Flashback weighs. All I know is I'm going into this match currently. I'm 6'2". I'm 226 pounds.
You're one of the bigger guys in the locker room. 6'2". You won. I would say, you were right up there with Cheesy. You were right up there. Walker's pretty tall. I think Walker Wall Street's deceptively tall. I mean, obviously we wish him well, but guys that are in the company, you are going to be one of the taller ones that we have, and Dalton as well, obviously.
Exactly. But here's the thing. I'm going into this. I've been working out a lot more as well. So I've not lost weight, but I've shifted weight into certain places. So I'm coming into this year, bigger and stronger.
Let me ask you a question real quick on that, because I think it's an interesting point. You said you've been training, but you've been shifting your weight. Can you talk about that for the audience?
Well, basically, what it is I've been toning muscle in my body, in my arms, my shoulders, my chest. I've got quite a thick, like wide, torso area
Okay.
myself,
Yeah,
right?
I
So,
have
so
noticed that from I watched some of your most recent work, and I could see
yeah,
that a little bit.
so that is, the strength there, upper body strength is getting, because I have great lower body strength, but I've been really trying to get the upper body strength going a bit more as well.
Okay, so that's certainly something that plays out into your advantage, and maybe we will talk about it for a few minutes. So, when it comes to a submission match, and you talk about some of that length, you talk about how maybe you're working out in a different way. Does that help you when it comes to, let's say, that stretching and agility type of things you're going to look for without giving away the strategies coming up this weekend here at Miners Mania?
Oh yeah. Here's the thing, because not only have I been working at the strength as well, but with the working out, you work on speed as well. With a submission match, you've got to be quick in this thing because you've got to isolate a body part. I'm not going to say what I'm going to target, obviously.
I was going to
But
say,
yeah,
don't tell us live on the
yeah,
air.
but yeah, it's all about picking your spot and going for it and utilizing the speed and the blunt force of trauma of strength at that body part as well. And with that, if I find the right spot and I isolate it enough, I know I can get him to tap out.
Well, we're going to certainly find out. Let me get to a few comments here. First of all, I want to
Yeah,
say we'd love to see you there, and I would love to see the guys out there
that'd be
wrestle the
great. Yeah.
first class in Iowa. If there's a will and a way, thank you for wishing him well. Sadly, it's a UTI, but at least he's home safe. Well,
You're in,
that's yeah.
those are very nasty. Yeah,
Well, we certainly want to keep our thoughts and prayers to Michael, and also I want to
yeah.
extend again our thoughts and prayers to the family of Alfie Nerds, obviously, with heavy hearts. I know it's going to be this weekend to see Alfie in the ring against Sugar Ray Taylor, who was with us here on Sportswire Radio last month before he wrestled Jam Dog for that Carnage Hardcore Championship. So we'll certainly want to, again, everybody I know is impacted by that. It's going to be an emotional show Saturday. But, I was wondering, and we'll certainly come back to more Hall of Fame talk, but you're obviously debuting in CCW. You've been in some big stages. You've been a champion for 581 days. You've been on a podcast which got almost 1,500 views, which is interesting in
Yeah.
itself. But, you're here on the biggest stage. Are there nerves? Are there, how are you feeling going into this?
Every time you try, obviously, people CCW and Carnage, obviously they're linked together. They're linked.
For
It's run by,
sure.
yeah. But with this being the biggest show of the year, yeah, there is a little bit of nervousness. I won't deny that. But once I step out that curtain, that always makes way. At the end of the day, I'm there to do a job, and my job is basically this: beat the living hell out of Johnny Flashback. That's the job, and that's what I plan on doing.
And you're coming in here against a guy that has wrestled for the World Underground Championship, a guy that has been, one of these guys in the company that he's been near or around the top of the card. So you're kind of in here in a match that not only do you have a lot to prove, but a win here all of a sudden cements you as a major player in CCW. Do you want to talk
Hey,
about that for the audience?
hey, you saw my list at the beginning of the year. When the new year started, I put a list up of things I wanted to achieve.
You
You
did.
saw that first and foremost.
I
One of
did.
those things is somewhere, sometime, I'm going to be heavyweight champion, and in order to be heavyweight champion, you've got to top contenders. So Johnny Flashback, this is just business, but you're a stepping stone of me getting to where I need to be. So first to go through you, and then if there's anyone else I need to go through in order to get to that championship, bring it on.
Absolutely, for sure. I want to actually plug the banner up here in a few minutes. We're actually going to put the banner up here shortly, so hang on tight for that. But also you talked about Carnage and CCW kind of intertwined, and you actually kind of have maybe the most intertwined twist with this because the general manager of Carnage Championship Wrestling is Tabby Ann, who happens to be your manager. I mean, this is kind of
Yeah.
really unique in a sense that Tabby is the general manager because she replaced Ronnie months ago, but she's actually your manager. I mean, that's kind of interesting to
Yeah.
note here in
Well,
itself. I mean, let's talk about that for the audience.
Well, we've not been back at Carnage for a while because we've had other things going on, both
Sure.
personally and
We've actually
professionally.
talked a
But
lot about that. Ronnie's been on here a few times since you've actually been
yeah,
on the show since.
Yeah, but here's the thing. Here's the thing. There'll come an opportunity when we'll be back, and watch this space because I think some good stuff is coming down the pipe at some point.
What have you had any thoughts on, let's say, Tabby's role as general manager there? I know Ronnie he had a few things to say about it
Yeah,
on
he was not. He
Sportswire.
was he was not happy about it.
Ronnie,
But
well, Ronnie doesn't have a lot to be happy with these days right now because of what he's dealing with Rico Justice and A Dog. I mean, he's dealing with a
hey,
lot with that.
he needs to focus on that because if he's there, focusing on what Tabby Ann's doing, it's gonna take the attention away from the match at hand. Listen, Tabby Ann so far, I mean, I think she's doing an okay job. People can say what they want, but and people may say the match I had was leaked with controversy and stuff like that. But it's Carnage Championship Wrestling. Controversy is going to happen no matter what happens.
Okay, let me ask you a slight detour question when it comes to that. Has that or played in your mind coming into CCW here? I know it's again slightly different show, but has that played into your mind? I know it was a while ago, and we haven't even got a chance to speak about that. But is that something that plays into your mind
No,
debuting
not
here? No.
no, not at all. Listen, whether it's Carnage or Colliery, when they know I'm good. I know how to entertain a crowd, whether it's for the mature audience or for the family audience. Okay, they wouldn't have booked me. People wouldn't have booked me if they didn't think I was capable of the job. Okay, that's the actual truth of it. I know that may seem like I'm blowing my own horn there, but I've been doing this long enough now to know that I've gained a bit of a reputation of knowing how to entertain people.
Well, you're Champagne Charlie after all. I mean, you're
Yeah,
charismatic, you're flamboyant, and they are different audiences. But at the end of the day, like you said, you have a job to do, and you're going to do it here. You're going to do it what's best in the way that you can. And we are on Sportswire Radio, and I actually want to pull up the CCW YouTube page for a second before we get to the banner. So I'm actually going to do that here because we have now, since you've last been on the show, we actually have a share our screen that I've actually learned how to finally
oh,
use. And
brilliant.
yeah,
Yeah.
so we'll actually get a chance to see CCW in action. So if you want to support CCW, I would really hope that you do so here because we have it right here where you can watch all the different stuff, all the great live shows. And by the way, DJB, want to give him a big shout out. He is doing a great job out there. DJB, I mean, he has really upgraded the CCW YouTube presence like nobody else has ever done before because we have all the great shows up there. DJB's got his own show. Ronnie's got his shows. I mean, you've got so many different things that you can watch here, all the lives. I mean, so
Yeah.
if you're a fan of CCW and you want to keep up to date with things, you can do that here. I'm actually going to pull it up here right now for us, the banner of CCW, not only Miners Mania 3, but also your match. And we have it right there. So there you go. How about that? There's the banner. And again, sold out once again. And there's the banner. And, how do you feel looking
There
at the
is
banner here now you get a chance to see it?
that. Like I said, I've said this to you off camera before. That the banners are really really good for this show. It really feels like they've pulled out all the stops with these things. It just it's I love the coloring. I love they've done like an actual like kind of like
Yep.
years ago they used to do boxing posters. They used to do,
Yes,
like
yes,
stuff like
yes,
yeah. I mean, I think AEW does that a little bit with on Rampage sometimes as well with the opponents
yes.
facing each other. So I love all that kind of stuff. It kind of adds to the storytelling of the match, in my opinion.
Oh, for sure. Absolutely no question about it. Again, Johnny Flashback is a guy that certainly, again, he's been a player in CCW. You've been a major player outside of that. And I wanted to spend a few minutes also conversely on your tag team partner, your best friend, your brother, Dalton Garrett, the Nomad Dalton
My good
Garrett,
friend,
who's
yeah,
going to be in the ring. I'm actually going to pull his banner up here very shortly because we have that right there. So there you go.
yeah, that's a
The
cool
magic
looking
of
banner as
technology.
well.
I got to say that one, I like you and your banner, but Dalton's with the black and white here. I mean, this is just sick. I mean, this is just like a
It's kind of
total
a
like.
it's kind of a badass poster. I will say that.
Oh, absolutely. You have a thought on this? Obviously, Dalton Adrian Black. Adrian Black is a guy that I had Dustin Hart on right after he defeated Adrian Black, and Black and Dagon have just been this extremely impressive force, and they have pretty much run CCW, and they've even been other promotions, and they've basically held their weight and certainly done more than that and some. So, I mean, Dalton Garrett's got the size, but Adrian Black is just again. He's no walk in the park, and what do you expect here in a match like
Hey,
this? It's really such an intriguing match.
all I know is ever since we were last at CCW Carnage last year, right? Yeah, I know for a fact that Dalton is extremely. Can I say the words pissed off? You know, with
Yes, you can. You certainly
yeah,
can on the
extremely
sports
pissed
wire.
off about how like he lost one of his titles to Thatcher there. Listen, and now they've just recently announced that all the titles that were at Carnage have now been kind of defunct. So Dalton is extremely pissed off, and his first victim, so to speak, of that rage is Adrian Black. So I'm sorry to say to Adrian Black, you haven't got a prayer, mate, because Dalton Garrett's coming there basically to do harm, and you're the martyr basically for this moment.
Okay, now that's no. Again, I've had Dalton Garrett on with you a few times. I know Dalton
Yeah,
Garrett very well. No question about that. I take zero away from Dalton Garrett, and he is certainly a 20-plus-year veteran in this business. And
yeah, he is.
he's
Yes,
probably, I would say now, he might have the most experience of anyone in the locker room, other than maybe Jam Dog and maybe Sugar Ray Taylor. So that certainly, speaks for itself. But again, Adrian Black is again part of maybe the most dominant duo in CCW history. He's also one half of the tag team champions. I mean, Dalton's got, is that a concern you think from Dalton's vantage point, or Dalton's not worried about that?
no, no, Dalton is not worried about that at all. If anything, this is an opportunity to cash in, because if Dalton beats one half the tag team champions, then there may be a conversation at some point about First Class wanting actual tag title gold.
Now, could you say conversely that Black could really be extra motivated because of the fact it's a huge weekend for him and Dagan? Dagan has a chance to end Jam Dog's career. I'm sure Dagan certainly wants Adrian Black to make sure that he can go back on the right foot here after his struggles with Dustin Hart. And, Dalton Garrett could be that prime target here of maybe what's to come at Miners Mania 3 from Adrian Prince and certainly the champion Prince Dagan. Is that a
Oh yeah,
concern at all?
it's make or break for those guys, really, because they're
I've
basically
been saying that the
yeah,
last 2 months. Absolutely.
it's they're putting it all on the line. That's the thing. So I mean, it's one thing being dominant, but this they have to put everything up on the line. And if they fail, it's how they, if can they bounce back from that if they do. I mean, I don't know.
First impressions are always the most important ones. They always say they remember the first impression. And this is technically you and Dalton's first match, first impression here in CCW.
Oh
Is
yeah.
this also conversely make or break for both of you guys?
Oh yeah, definitely. It could, because like I said, this is a new. Even though we've worked with some of these guys in Carnage, this is a completely new audience. You only have one opportunity, as you said, to make a first impression. But like I said, me and Dalton, we've been strategizing for our matches, so we know what we're going to do, and I'm sure each of us will be victorious.
I have no doubt that it's going to be great matches to see. I certainly think that you both have very, very strong cases to win. I think I do agree with Dagan, though. I certainly think you have the edge over Johnny Flashback. I don't know about Garrett and Black. What? I think it was said, I don't know if it was on DJ B's stream, but it was definitely, I think, on one of Ronnie's streams. This might be the most intriguing match of the night. I mean, Cheese and Hybrid, I've been talking about for like almost a
Yeah.
year now. I mean,
Oh
that
yeah,
match,
definitely.
I've been
That's
talking
a
about that
full
for
year in the
ages.
making. Yeah.
100%. But this match to me is so intriguing because I know Dalton Garrett. And then
Mhm.
Adrian Black is, again, a part of this team that's been the most dominant team in CCW history. And then you've got your match also to boot. But in terms of this match, I feel like this is the most, I think, really wild card match of the night for whatever reason.
Oh yeah, it's going to be really really physical. It's going to
Oh,
be
for
very
sure.
hard. It's going to be hard hitting. All I know is no one hits harder than Dalton Garrett. The
You know
chops,
that firsthand,
yeah,
literally,
yeah,
as
yeah, and
firsthand.
the chops alone, that this man can do. Listen, you were there when we had when we were talking about our match that we had with with Dan Robinson
Yep.
and young Horace nearly 2 years ago,
Yep.
and you saw what happened there. It's different opponent, but the result, but it remains the same. No matter what happens, you're gonna get someone's gonna be hearing bells in their head.
Let
So
me let me ask you this question. As we're here with the newest member of the Sportswire Radio Hall of Fame, he is our 60th member, final member of the sixth class, the one and only Champagne Charlie. My name is the Reverend Tom Bryce, your voice of World Wrestling. World Wrestling Matters. If you want to follow CCW, I put all the links below in the description. Since you've last come on the show, we've actually got links in the description. We've got screens. I mean, I tried to
Awesome.
make this a lot more, interesting for you, maybe more charismatic, more champagne-like for you, because I couldn't pop a bottle of champagne on the
It's
air
all it's
for
all
you.
it's all it's awesome, man. It really is. It's
I
awesome.
I appreciate that. My name is the Reverend Tom Bryce, your voice of all wrestling. I was wondering this, and tell me what your thoughts is. What are your goals here in CCW?
Well, my goals is very, very simple. It's dominate the competition, work my way up the ranks, and hopefully end up winning gold. If it's tag gold with Dalton, ace. If it's singles gold, then ace again. I mean, we are here, both me and Dalton, to make an impact and rise through the ranks and get where we want to be.
And again, it's so fascinating to me that you guys do that here, the biggest stage of them all.
Oh yeah,
Miners Mania 3, sold out crowd. I mean, just to do it here in the biggest stage. I mean, that's
on the
really,
biggest show of the year. That's quite
and
something.
it's so unique. I know you've wrestled a lot of shows. I know you've been back
Yeah.
out there. You were just in the ring last weekend. I know we have Bolton Town. I love Bolton Town. I can't wait to talk about Bolton Town in a little while. You got a show against the Adam Bowler situation. I'm going to save toward the end. But you actually, I think what's so fascinating here is you're actually debuting in a company, their biggest show of the year. If you think back to whether it's anywhere, it could be WWE, could be in the independent scene here in the UK. We do backyard wrestling, underground wrestling, whatever it is. Very few wrestlers get a chance to debut in a company's biggest show of the year. I think a pretty cool thing in a way, and it's very unique from your vantage point and even Dalton's vantage point.
Oh yeah, it's a big deal for us both. Don't get me wrong. The fact that we're being given this opportunity is quite something, and we're looking forward to giving the best show possible. But like I said, we're there to we're there to do a job. Doesn't matter who you put in front of us. We're going to go out there and give the beating of a lifetime if no matter what happens. So whether Johnny Flashback or Adrian Black, it's just, they could have lined anyone up,
Now, something
and
tells
we're
me
going to say
though.
the same thing. So
Something tells me though, before I get to the next comment, that you would not necessarily be a quote unquote fan of some of the vintage '80s stuff that Mr. Flashback has to say. I would say you're a little bit more up to date when it comes to current events in pop culture. I just, for whatever reason, have to think, or at least in the wrestling world.
a little bit, yeah, but at the same time, you've got to pay dividends to the old school of pro wrestling.
Oh,
People may try
for sure.
people may try and forget it, but here's the thing: it's all about the foundations.
Oh,
So yeah,
that's no question about that. And speaking, all right, speaking of people here that I want to get to, I actually want to pull up his banner here shortly because I want to do that because he's here and I want to give him a big shout out. That, of course, is my dear friend, Mr. Tribal Cheese. The Tribal Cheese is here, and I want to put up his logo. And I've got his shirt on, by the way. And he
yeah,
does want to remind you it ain't easy. And before I get to the Mr. Bowler comment, I'll leave that in a minute. But what do you think here in He and Hybrid? This is a match that you know, on this platform, I was the first person maybe that spoke about wanting to see that match. Hybrid is a guy, I know you're no stranger to watching shows here, was the CCW World Underground Champion once
yeah,
upon a time. The Tribal Cheese is a guy that I've known before he even came and stepped foot in a CCW ring or a locker room. And, he's been a legend in this sport. I mean, he won, obviously, the Battle Memorial for obviously Mr. Carnage at the tribute show last month, and he's done pretty much almost everything there is in this sport, and he speaks for itself. He's even a multimedia star. I mean, he's got reels out there that have like 800,000, 900,000 views. He hobnobs with all these celebrities, and you've got Hybrid, who certainly wants to get back on the good foot when it comes to his last, I don't know, 9 or 10 months in CCW. And this to me is almost the main event in itself. And I know you know both these guys very well, probably Cheese more so than Hybrid. But
yeah.
what's your impressions on this match from afar?
This is going to be a very interesting bout because both men are about, I would say, have similar styles when it comes to wrestling. They're both hard hitting, and they're both put
And
it
they
all on
had,
the line
and they
every
were in the
single time.
they were at the Coloring Rumble 2 months ago. We saw them basically,
Yeah,
and everybody
exactly.
was like, "Get out of
But
the way!" I mean,
but
that
as
was
far
in
as
itself crazy.
but as far as personality and outlooks on life, they are completely different.
Oh,
So yeah,
absolutely, absolutely.
yeah. You've
No
got
question about that.
you've got hybrid who's no nonsense, right? It's all about the fine point and getting the job done. Then you've got the big cheese who has been, like I said, he's been on this role recently, as you mentioned, all the celebrities and stuff and all his online thing. I'm worried, is that a distraction for cheese? And can he
So I
focus
think that was a great point you made because that was
can he focus on the match at hand, which is hybrid? You know what I mean? Because it's one thing to be on a roll, but you can't let the guy go to your head. So we need to see
I think
whether he
Dakin
can.
had made the same point there. That's an interesting point you made because, the tribal cheese, I mean, he's just blown up in the world. I mean, social media, everybody's talking about the tribal cheese. The tribal
Yeah,
cheese is everywhere. But hybrid, his last several months were not what we saw when he debuted in CCW,
no.
where he
So
became
he's
the world underground champion. Yep.
so hybrid has something to prove here. So he's going to be focused on what he wants to do. But
Oh, for sure. For sure.
like I said, so it could play into his favor there. That's the thing.
No question about that. And I'm really excited about this match. This is a match I've been waiting for a long time to talk about. I know that the Tribal Chief is going to be here to talk about the fallout from that here at Miners Mania 3. And you can see that again here. Look at the poster. I mean, what a poster in itself.
Yeah,
And
it's quite something. Yeah.
Mr. Tribal Cheese wants to point out, though, Adam Bowler's former world champion. Ha ha ha. Kind of almost like, what was it, David Arquette, who was a world champion in WCW once upon a time?
Yeah.
He's got some thoughts about that. We'll certainly bring that
Yeah.
up in a little while
I'm
for
not
you.
gonna. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, we'll certainly do that. But when it comes to, let's say, in Colory Championship Wrestling, coming back to that, is there any other matches? I mean, I know Jam and Prince Dig and everybody's talking about. I think Sugar Ray Taylor and Nerds is a really intriguing match. Dustin Hart and Nate Sawyer. But is there anybody in particular that, let's say, you're maybe watching closely? Leave aside your match and certainly Dalton Garrett's match.
Um, for obvious reasons, because I think he has the opportunity, he has the potential to really get a big time here, and that is Alfie Nerds. And I'm not saying that because of what he's just going for. I'm not trying to do sympathy or anything like that. He is hardworking. He is one hell of a talent, and I think this match he has on this Saturday is his chance to really step
Oh,
up.
it's a huge moment.
And
I mean, Sugar Ray
and
Taylor, what
yeah,
a moment this is.
yeah, exactly. So
And
it's
there you go.
yeah.
There you
So
go.
I think he has so much to prove, and I think he can do it. I actually do think he can do it.
And the last couple of months, you've seen that obviously he's had Alfie Nerds had a very interesting last several months, certainly with Mr. Barris, and I'm not going to necessarily go there with you and Bobblehead Barris, although I will maybe ask you about the voice of the coloring in a minute. But I mean, when it comes to Alfie Nerds, yes, a lot of emotions. He's also lost the OK 24/7 championship to the Tribal Chiefs because he is also the Mr. OK 24/7 champion.
Yeah.
Maybe that's a championship you want down the road. Who knows? Maybe it's another championship goal for you. I mean, I don't know if that's necessarily.
Maybe, like I said, it's always something to consider.
But I kind of think this is also a match that can kind of make, you spoke about make or break, right? It's a make or break show for Dagan and Black. Maybe it's a make or break for you and Dalton Garrett because of first impressions. But when it comes to Alfie Nerds, this is his moment. He beats a Sugar Ray Taylor. Sugar Ray Taylor is a living legend. This is a man that, you think about what he's done in this sport. He's a veteran. He's been there and wrestled in front of hundreds and upon thousands of people. He's a guy that's got a Rolodex that's, maybe of anybody we've seen in CCW, aside from, let's say, Davey Blaze and Johnny Storm, there's nobody that has kind of the Rolodex that he has. And for Alfie Nerds to beat him, I mean, I think that would really go a long way in kind of having his mania moment, you might want to say.
Absolutely, yes.
Well, we'll have to see here. And obviously, I'm going to pull this back up from the screen and go back to something else in a second. But I did want to, because obviously in the interest of time, want to talk about Bolton Town Wrestling for a few minutes.
Yes.
Obviously, Bolton Town Wrestling is next Friday. And you're wrestling a guy that I happen to know really, really well. A guy that I've seen wrestle in many, many promotions. A guy that has had his own interesting issues in Bolton Town Wrestling. And you make your debut against him. And I'm talking about none other than Maverick Matt Williams. I mean, do you want to talk about what we can expect from you next Friday, and quite a card in itself that Bolton Town has put
It's
together.
it's basically me going into a new territory and putting some Tom Cruise wannabe in his place. That is
Wow.
basically what is going on. Listen,
I think he's even shorter though than Tom Cruise.
yeah, exactly. Listen, he's trying to say this is North versus South. This is not North versus South. Okay, yeah, I live in the south of England now in Essex, right? But people don't seem to realize this.
Salford.
I was born in Salford, which is just a stone's throw away from where Bolton
Although
is.
you and
Okay,
Jack Johnson, I would never think you and Jack Johnson
nah,
would be from
nah,
the same
nah.
town. You know, I was like, should I bring that up in my speech to induct you? I'm like,
We were talking about this when I went to go see a Bolton show last year. Me and Jack spoke about this, which was quite something. But anyway, listen. He wants to listen. If Matt Williams wants to wants to talk about North versus South, very well. I call it me going into it going home and taking what is mine. That is what I call it.
So you know, it's so interesting that you have this weekend coming up at Miners Mania, and then you
Mhm.
have next Friday against Maverick Matt Williams. You know, you're actually debuting in two of the biggest promotions, really, I think in our scene, and you have a chance to really beat two guys that have been near the top or at the top of their promotion. That's a huge 2 weeks for you ahead.
Oh
I
yeah,
mean,
definitely, yeah.
is this, you know, I'm going to ask this question. I know it's so cliche, and I know I've known you a while. I've had you on several times before, but is this kind of like the biggest like week ahead of your career in a way? I mean, just because of just the
Yeah.
magnitude of it.
It is quite daunting. I won't deny that. But you can't. I can't let that fester on my mind. At the end of the day, as I mentioned before, it's a job. At the end of the day, so
No,
I've
it's a
got
job,
yeah,
but you're going. But and I agree with you about that. But you're in the ring with Johnny Flashback, who's wrestled Dagan for the World Underground title not too long ago. Big deal, right? And you
yeah,
got Maverick Matt Williams, who's been a world champion, and Maverick Matt Williams, who in a way hasn't been in the game that long, but has actually been in the game that long. If you think about it, to the fact that he's wrestled up and down this scene. I mean, he's wrestled in like many
yeah.
promotions, and you have a chance to go and show what you've put to the
If you're
table.
asking if I have a point to prove, then the answer is definitely yes. Because here's the thing: you mentioned both these guys have either fought or been heavyweight champions.
Yep.
I've been in this game for 8 years now, and I'm yet to become a heavyweight champion. So this is these matches I'm taking as opportunities to prove that I belong in that category.
I'm so glad you brought that up because that's an interesting point. Because some guys come on the platform and they go, "Oh, you know what? Championship belts don't mean anything. It's about the money.
Wrong.
It's about
They
the
do.
women." And I'm glad you said that because I want to get to this because I interview, you know this. I interview so many people from all over the world, and some guys tell me, "Well, it doesn't matter how many times I've been champion. It doesn't matter if I've been the world champion. It matters if I've got, the girls, if I got the money." But let's cut to the chase. Let's kick the ballistics, quote unquote, to quote the movie New Jack City for a second. At
Yeah.
the end of the day, we're not getting rich off this. If you
No.
want to go out there, you want to be, I don't care what promotion, whether it's CCW, whether it's Bolton Town, whether it's WWE, you want to be the top guy. You
Yeah.
want to be the world heavyweight champion. And you have a chance, champion Charlie, to prove to the people you've been doing this for 8 years. Yes, you were the immortal fighting champion for 581 days. An
Yeah.
amazing accomplishment. You're in the Hall of Fame because of that. But the facts are, you could go out here this next two matches you're in and go show, you know what? Maybe I should be a world champion somewhere down the road.
Exactly. Yes.
Do you want to talk about the fact that 8 years you've been in this sport? You've gone up and down this scene. You fought in court. Listen, this was a dream you wanted to do for a
Yeah.
while, but you couldn't do it. And now
Yeah.
you have a chance maybe to prove yourself that you could be a top guy.
A good friend of mine who was also, I would say, one of my mentors, a guy called Matt Ball. Matt, really
Okay.
good friend of mine, right, pointed something out to me. Now, a few weeks ago, I was at a training session. I was having a bit of a emotional moment,
Oh God.
and he really came up to me and really opened my eyes to something. He said, "Look at all you've accomplished." And he goes, "One of the things you've accomplished that not many people have. There's only a elite group of people who've done this. You've broken that north and south divide. Some people only wrestle here in England, only either wrestle in the south or the north. I on a list of few people have actually, gone up and down the actual country itself. You know what I mean? Both north and south, and Dalton's been part of that as well. We've travelled thousands of miles, up and down this country. So that's one thing I'm really really proud of.
I'm so glad you brought that up, and I want to get to a couple of comments here from the Tribal Cheese and Michael knows, and I'm so glad you brought that up because I was speaking with a wrestler, and I don't want to say who the wrestler was because for obvious reasons. And I was speaking with this wrestler off the air, and it's a wrestler from our country here in the UK, and he was talking about the fact of the politics, the divide, that
Yeah,
people don't want to go out of their comfort zone. But I'm so glad what you've always done is to heck with that stuff. You want to go wrestle where you can prove your worth. You
yeah.
want to
Listen,
go out there and just
it's
compete against
so
the best of the best. Because I gotta say
exactly.
real quick on this, because I really want to get this off my chest. There is a lot of people that not in CCW, of course, not in Bolton
No,
Town,
no, no, no.
but they want to go out there and wrestle the same matches, have the same endings. It's almost like redundant. But you have always said, you know what? I'm not going to pay attention to that stuff. I'm not going to get involved. Whatever happens with people wanting to have
Yeah,
views, God bless
yeah,
them. But you want to go out there and just test your skills against the best. And that's why I respect you. And that's why you are in the Hall of Fame for a
yeah.
part of that. And I think
It's
that's
just
important to
look.
note.
I've said this blatantly to people, and people can say what they want. If they disagree with this, fine. But this is just my opinion. If someone says to me, "Oh, you don't want to go here because that person's done this or that person said that," I said, "I wasn't there. I've not witnessed it. I don't know what's going on. So leave me out of it." You know what I mean? If I see something, then I'll say something. But just keep me out of whatever politics or stuff or gang warfare that's going on.
Oh my God!
Yeah,
You know what? And I said
yeah,
this on one of my shows a couple days ago because this pertains to the scene here in the U.S. Even I
yeah,
said we're killing each other for nothing. We're
yeah,
killing each other for what? We're fighting over crumbs. We're going out there, and I don't even know what we're talking about. I was
yeah,
on off the air a couple days ago, and one guy didn't like the other guy, and I didn't. I was like, I don't even know why. It made no sense. And
yeah,
I'm like, at the end of the day, we're all doing this. As my buddy Hillbilly Tilly, our general manager in the Sportswire Radio Hall of Fame, the only general manager we have, who, by the way,
yeah,
is one of my favorites, and he said this quote, and it sums it up best. Wrestlers here at this level do it because they love this sport. And
yeah.
that's what it's about.
And
You
I
go
just,
out there, Cheese does it, Hybrid does it, CCW does it that way. Certainly, a lot of the guys in Bolton Town does it this way. AWL from Hillbilly Tilly. You guys all do it out there for the love of this sport. And you do
yeah,
it because you care. And that's what it's
it's
about.
called professional wrestling for a reason.
Amen to that. And I put up the banner here, by the way. You can see Maverick
Yes,
Matt Williams and Champion.
yeah.
See, I told you. I've been
The new
working on
empire.
design since we came on to
Yeah,
Sportswire last time.
the new empire. Yeah,
I do like that. Although it would have been better if it was May the 4th be with you. You had this match get the new Empire Star Wars, but that's
yeah.
okay. That's a different.
I believe that they recently had a competition to name their May show. I
I did
believe.
see
Yeah,
that, yes,
yeah,
on Facebook. Yes, I did. Let me get to some comments here. Champagne Charlie is Salford asks, yeah, technically, you know what? I mean, because I haven't had Jack on in a while, so maybe you are more Salford than Jack. But love Jack,
yeah,
by the way. Jack is awesome. I've had Jack on many times. Charlie is a good friend of the Tribal Cheese and definitely acknowledge. I am definitely acknowledging that. By the way, I'm acknowledging my Tribal Cheese shirt.
yeah. Me and I had me and the Tribal Cheese actually had dinner together in Manchester when I last visited. And we said if we ever went together because I'm Champagne Charlie, he's the big cheese. We'd call it the cheese and wine party.
Well, it's funny
Yeah,
you said that because when
yeah,
Jam came on, when Jam Dog got inducted the last time, I think the thing was jam and cheese, and I was like, I don't think jam and
yeah,
cheese. I don't know if I'd want to taste jam and cheese. I don't know if that's something I would avoid. Champagne and cheese sounds a little bit more, I think, palatable. Was is that
yeah.
the word palatable for those that
I think plausible is the word you're looking for.
plausible is much better. Clearly, my
Yeah,
grammar's not very good. You could tell I'm
it's
from New
okay.
York.
Yeah,
I might be a fan of Horace, but I'm also a big fan of Champion Charlie. And if anyone can, it's Champion Charlie. I'm a way bigger fan than Champion Charlie, especially everything he does in this great sport. And yes, I want to see the best go out there. Let the best square off with the best. And afternoon, Tom, Champion Charlie, Tribal Cheese. Love the creative character names. Reminds me of my name. Greetings from across the pond. Get this, Hellbilly Tilly,
greetings.
who's in the Hall of Fame also. he's from the state of Alabama. So he's out there from the
Alabama,
state.
sweet home Alabama.
And that's for the state of, by the way, speaking of vintage, Bobby Eaton, of course, the legendary
Bobby
Bobby
Eaton,
Eaton.
yes,
Who I,
beautiful Bobby Eaton, yeah, of
well, I
the
don't know why Bobby Eaton is not in the WWE Hall of Fame. I'll put him in the Sportswire Hall of Fame.
the Midnight Express,
Yeah,
yes,
absolutely. Yes. In fact, I just heard the other day that they're selling still. I think there's a few more. Jim Cornette was talking about they're selling some Midnight Express figures, some limited edition
oh
Midnight
yeah.
Express figures. So there you go. That, but I want my Champagne Charlie figure instead. But also Alabama is the home.
I'd love to get a figure made. I honestly, I
Well, I
really
think
would.
the tribal cheese has one. He does
Yeah,
have his own figure.
I need to ask him how he did that so I can get one
I've
made.
actually had people off the air ask me about that. I said, they were like, "How did the tribal cheese get his own figure?" I'm like, "Well, you have to ask him that question because I don't know, and I wouldn't tell you if I knew anyway." But also, Alabama is the home, of course, of our legendary James Taylor, but also in a Hall of Fame, but also, of course, Hardcore Holly. So
Bob Holly, yes. So yeah.
also, congratulations on the induction. If you want to
Thank
follow
you.
Champagne Charlie, how about Instagram? Got the big banner here for you. You can do that. Oop, there you go. That's the magic of technology. And he's available for bookings. And he was so kind to put our announcement here up. And you can catch him here on Instagram, Champagne Charlie Vintage 92. So if you're a Hillbilly Tilly, if you're anybody else out there, give him a follow. He's also the guy that's always doing a lot of great things here in the sport of wrestling. And my name is the Reverend Tom Bryce, where all wrestling matters. We're hanging out for half an hour. So I want to make the announcement here one more time that next Thursday, live in your chair, Champagne Charlie, Mustafa Khan is here. I mean, Mustafa Khan.
Yeah.
And I've also got another announcement, a guy that I guess you technically shared a locker room with an alias of his. He's going to be into the Sportswire Radio Hall of Fame the same time that you're here for. 2 weeks from Sunday, April 14th, this guy, Brad Coleman, probably heard of Brad Coleman before.
I have heard
Brad Coleman,
him, yes.
the guy that, speaking of like CM Punk and speaking of guys that can talk, I mean, Brad Coleman is definitely a guy that can talk, and he's going to take his place into the Sportswire Radio Hall of Fame, April the 14th, 8 o'clock here, UK Standard Time. And it's funny because I haven't had an interview from British wrestling in over a month, but I've come back with a bang. You're here. Mustafa Khan's next Thursday. Brad Coleman's the following Sunday. We are back. We are back better than ever. And I cannot wait for the future of especially not only British wrestling, but Colory Championship Wrestling. Is you're going to be in the ring this coming Saturday, Miners Mania 3. So obviously, we spoke a little bit about Bolton Town. Very excited about that. I'll get maybe a few final thoughts on Maverick Matt Williams. I'll come certainly back in a few minutes for everything about you and Miners Mania 3 and Johnny Fleshback. Such an intriguing match. I mean, what a way to debut. But I do have to bring it up because you're in the ring against Adam Bowler. And again, a man that, again, I know this guy. I know Adam Bowler. And you're going to be wrestling him coming up in the month of May. Also, I know you're going to be wrestling somewhere else for the audience. So anything for a few minutes you want to share on this and what can we expect in here and anything else you might want to share?
Classic UK Pro Wrestling have invited me there and I'm more than happy to wrestle it. It's a new venue for me. It's a new I know the
you're everywhere, new venues now. You did talk last year you wanted to wrestle in new places and you got it.
Yeah, exactly. And listen, if Aaron Bowler wants the match, I'm more than happy to give it to him. It may mean a beating from me on him, but that's the price to pay if you want to wrestle Champagne Charlie. That's
it's so funny you said that because I'm not a wrestler, obviously, and I don't want to tell you which wrestler, but there was a couple of guys that were talking to me, guys you actually wouldn't know, and they were like, well, would you want to wrestle a match? And I was like, absolutely not. Because I wouldn't want to disrespect your craft, Champagne Charlie. I'm not a trained wrestler, right? So I don't want to go out there and do something that would disrespect everything you've put out there in this sport. With all due respect to Adam, he doesn't have what you've done. He hasn't done the things that you've done. And, this has got to be personal in a sense that you want to send a message to him and others that might want to step foot into this squared circle. A thing that you've done, a canvas that you've painted on, that you've given your life to, that you might want to make an example of him, that, you're stepping into the wrong territory.
I'm not going to get into that because I don't want to, rub anyone up the wrong way. That's the actual truth of it. I mean, listen, I'm happy to, accept the match. People may have opinions about certain people, but like, as I've said many times, I don't get involved in that.
Absolutely. Well,
I can
I meant more in a way that you're going out and wrestling and you've done so much for this sport. Not to say that Adam hasn't, but you've obviously been a veteran. You want to make an example of him to get to championship gold. Maybe that's the better way to frame it. I mean, would that be, let's say, something you would say, you know what, that's a point that I would agree with you on, that you want to use this as a stepping stone to get to the World Heavyweight Championship, wherever it might be, more or less.
every match is a stepping stone when it comes to getting close to that championship. I'm not gonna get, like I said, get involved with the what people's personal feelings are. I mean,
Sure.
I listen. I've only spoken. I've never met Adam Bowler in person, so I don't know what the history there. People can say what they want, but like I said, I'm not going to get involved in it. It's a match like any other, and I'm going to treat it that way.
Absolutely, no question about that. I also do want to actually give a big shout out to, maybe on a different note, a lighter note for you. Probably chuckle about that, but
Yeah.
I want to say hello to my very good buddy, Mr. OK. Mr. OK. By the way, I have to give Mr. OK a big shout out because I have to get Champion Charlie, Mr. OK, onto Sportswire Radio soon. But also,
Okay.
I want to wish, I think it was somebody in his family's birthday on Tuesday. So I want to make sure I give that person a very happy birthday. And Mr. OK, you can remind me for that. Happy birthday. I hope that you're having a great day. And speaking of other people, I want to give a big shout out to. I heard from a birdie that was on a podcast from somebody I know very well not too long ago. And that's a man that is Mr. James Barris. Now, speaking of Mr. Barris and his troubles, Champion Charlie, I wanted to ask you, you're coming into CCW for the first time here this Saturday in the ring. And what's your impressions of this whole Voice of the Colory?
The voice of the color. I don't know who the voice is. That's the thing. So
You can confirm it's not you? Can you confirm it's not you?
I can confirm it's not myself. No, but it has been entertaining watching Mr. Barris run around like a headless chicken trying to find out who it is. I will say that.
So that's something that's amusing to you then. You think that that's...
It has been a kind of amusing to watch.
Well, I mean, Mr. Barris has certainly had his issues. I mean, do you prefer that rather than the bobblehead Barris chants?
The bobblehead Barris chants, I will admit, are fun to hear as well.
Well, he's in our Hall of Fame, so I'm going to reserve judgment on that because I can't necessarily, chant bobblehead Barris because I happen to love Mr. Barris, but he says it better not be okay. He doesn't want Mr. OK to be the voice of the color. Could you imagine if Mr. OK was the voice of the colory?
God forbid.
I want to say this. I actually confirmed that I wasn't the voice of the colory because we actually did this thing when Mr. Barris got inducted. I actually played the video of this, and I'm not the voice of the colors. I could actually put it out there, but no, it's not me, Mr. Barris. But speaking of people, Jam Dog himself, and I kind of maybe want to spend a minute or two on him. Obviously, he's joining you now in the Sportswire Radio Hall of Fame, so I want to certainly make that note out there. But what do you have a thought, or what's your impressions on him and Prince Dagan? Jam Dog, like you, has never been a world champion.
No.
Jam Dog has been in this sport a little longer than you, but he certainly has a lot to prove. He spoke a lot about whether it could be the greatest night of his life or the final night of his life here in the ring. What's your thoughts on that?
Again, it's laying it all on the line. He's putting his career on the line here. And listen, I've been in the ring with Jam Dog. So
I know that. I know that very well.
Listen, we may not get our history may not be pretty, that's for sure. But when you have a match with someone like that, you automatically gain that respect. So I believe Jam Dog does have what it takes to win the title. But here's the thing: he's going up. He's not just going up against Prince Dagon. Prince Dagon has all his followers with him as well. So it's whether is there going to be some involvement there? I don't know. So it's Jam Dogs has a high mountain to climb if he's going to win the title. I'm not saying it's impossible, but it's going to be very difficult.
Let me ask you this question before I pull up the banner and get to some more comments as people are now starting to join us.
Yeah.
Let me ask you this. For you, let's say you beat Flashback. You're going to be obviously confident you beat Flashback on Saturday.
Mm-hmm.
For you to get to that path of being the World Underground Champion, who's the better path for you, Dagan or Jam Dog?
I know people. Right? It is a good question. I know people would love to see a rematch between myself and Jam Dog, and this time for the Colliery audience because we did it for the Carnage audience last year. So that's one. And I'd love to wrestle Dagon as well because I think it would be an interesting matchup. But like I said, it doesn't really matter to me. Is whoever's holding the belt, it's something I'm coming after eventually. So that's all I will say.
But don't you think that there's in a way that because you've wrestled Jam, wouldn't you want to prove your skills against somebody you've already squared off with?
Possibly so, yeah.
Okay. Okay.
I
Fair
mean,
enough.
and the last time me and Jam fought, it was what's called a Hell for Leather match.
Yep.
So
Not
it'd be
and not and not hell bent for leather for Judas Priest fans because Judas Priest has
no,
a brand
yeah,
new album out.
yeah,
But go ahead.
yeah. I mean, we lashed each other, good and proper last time. That's the things.
Well, let me get to a lot of comments because a lot of people want to say hello. And
Okay,
Hellbilly Tilly also wants to say he agrees with you. He doesn't want to get into that whole type of things about people being in the ring. It's all about all wrestling matters. And thank you, Hellbilly Tilly, for pointing that out. Hellbilly
yeah,
Tilly agrees with you 1,000%. And I definitely want to make that note. Obviously, Mr. OK is the voice of the colory. I think Mr. Barris is going to have a heart attack just now. He wants to say, Jam Dog, happy retirement. I want to say hello to my buddy Omen Black, who also is from the state of Iowa and the IMF. He is the hardcore god, the boogeyman of the Midwest. He also won our Hall of Fame. And he says it's his show, by which it actually is his show. He says, I'm more of a whiskey and a moonshine guy, but Champagne Charlie, welcome to my show and the Hall of Fame.
yeah.
Jam Dog, you're a failure, but at least you've been a trying failure. Well, but does that make a difference, though, if you're a trying failure versus a failure? Isn't it the same path?
I've not got a clue.
I was going to say, he says it's not him as the voice of the colory. I know that Omen Black and the Tribal Chiefs have talked about if there was a will and a way for them to wrestle, that would be one for the ages.
That'd be fun to see.
I can't believe I heard that, but that's a respectable answer, Charlie. I will happily give you a title match when I win, Charlie. I owe you from Carnage last time. Did you maybe get your wish here, Champion Charlie? Maybe was your comments kind of maybe in a way leading on to something?
Possibly so. Who knows? I mean, at the end of the day, I'm not the booker, so we'll have to see what happens.
Well, let me ask you a follow-up. How much or how often have you thought about that war you had with Jam Dog?
It is up there. It's one of my. It is because it was an interesting match. You know what I mean? It was one of the first time I'd ever done one of those proper specialty matches. So hell for leather, and like I said, even though we beat the living hell out of each other, there is still that level of respect there afterwards. You have to, no matter whether you're in this as the good guy or the bad guy. After you've given that beating out, there is that moment of acknowledgement and the nod of the head, so to speak.
Absolutely. And if you want to follow CCW, I've put up all the links in the banner below. So if you want to support CCW as we resume CCW coverage here starting tonight, I would hope that you do so here because there's a number of different ways to support CCW. Also on Patreon, DJB does a great job out there. Also coming out, Championship Wrestling has a show just a little over a month from now. I want to make sure we plug that. Taylor Truth is going to be here to support that. We're always about all wrestling matters here. So you can check out CCW on YouTube. I will actually put the banner back up for that as well in a few minutes. Facebook, and congratulations, CCW, 5,000 followers on Facebook there. That's a huge accomplishment. And also want to make sure
yeah.
Major accomplishment because of Champagne Charlie coming in here. And also, I want to one more time say our thoughts and prayers to Alfie Nerds and his family, obviously, in the passing of his father. Just horrific news. And I want to make sure that anybody that is here, that we say our thoughts and prayers with that. Mr. Barris, I can't wait to taste your tears on the side. Has anybody ever tasted someone's tears? I'm not quite sure if that's possible. I don't know if I'd want to taste that. You might want to taste some champagne, Charlie. You probably want to taste some champagne soon. I'll definitely.
Definitely, yes.
And I want to also give a big shout out to everybody because I have 24 people watching us out there on YouTube, Twitch, and Twitter. So thank you. A lot of people are here with us. I appreciate the uptick in followers. And if you're out there on YouTube, hit that sub button for us on Sportswire Radio. I recently not only passed 500 subscribers, I passed 600 subscribers, and I'm well over that. So if you're out there, make sure you hit that sub button for us. We're also on Twitch now for the first time, Twitch at Sportswire Radio. So make sure you check us out on all those platforms. And I have to ask you something, kind of a fun question before I come back to some final thoughts. You were on this podcast at your own local pub that got all these views. And, what did that make you feel that you got a chance to talk about your journey for a little while in a pub and where you live? And just what is that like, the magnitude of a wrestler to get that many views? What is that like?
Well, let me tell you how this all started.
That's a
First of
good
all,
thing.
if
I
I
was
may.
curious
Okay, yeah.
about that.
So, well, basically, George, who does this, the name of the podcast is called "What Do You Call It" podcast. I'd really
Yes, I've
recommend it
seen
if
a
you.
few of
So,
them.
yeah,
Yep.
so yeah. So, and he's interviewed some big guys like Eric Young and Scott Demore, and recently Joe Legend, and and Joe Hendry as well.
Oh, Joe Hendry. I mean, living legend here in this scene.
Yeah, exactly. Anyway, right, I met George very briefly last year at Wembley. Actually, we went to see
Yeah, you
it
said that in the
all
interview.
in.
I
Yeah,
thought that was
yeah,
so fascinating.
yeah. And then he didn't know who I was. Then that's the thing at the time. We just it was just a passing thing. And then he found out that I actually lived in the area. We actually lived not that far away, which is
What a small
still
world. And you guys didn't know each other?
no, we didn't know each other. No, we had mutual friends.
Okay.
So he messaged me and we arranged it and we did and because normally he does like what you and me are doing right now. Like we're doing
Well,
over
you have
Skype.
said
Yeah,
that I
yeah.
should meet you someday, so maybe I will
Oh
meet you at
yeah.
your local pub one day.
Oh, that'd be great. Oh, you'd love it. You'd love it. Yeah,
I bet
yeah,
I would. I bet I
yeah.
would.
But we decided to do it rather than do it over the laptop. We met live
I thought that was so
in the
cool,
pub.
by the
Yeah,
way. It reminds me, there's a thing here in America. It's almost, forget the name of it. It's almost like they drink beer or they just kind of talk and it's, forget the name of it. It's a rapper does it, and they basically get a bunch of people in a room. Oh, drink shots. That's it. It's called drink
yeah,
shots. And they just
yeah,
get there, people just talk, and it's like unfiltered, but people, it's not like you're looking to just like say something particular. Just people are comfortable. They sit down. It's a very laid back
yeah,
atmosphere, and people just speak freely. I think that's kind of what this reminded me of in
yeah.
a way.
So we did the this live podcast and that was it. It was just another interview to me. I mean, it was great. It was great fun doing it with George. We had a good laugh and we had a few drinks after we wrapped. Do you know what I mean? And then within a span of I would say just over a week, as you 1,400 views
That's
on
crazy.
YouTube. Yeah, and George's podcast is really good, but some of his other audio interviews with people like Eric Young and stuff like that didn't get that many, and it's just it shocks me.
So
It really.
why? So how does that make you feel? You get all those views, and why? I guess.
Well, elated is one thing. I mean, that's one thing. You know what I mean, but it was just so shocking to me that it happened. And here's the thing: I helped George get his next interview. His next interview after me was with Joe Legend, and I know Joe. Joe, did a seminar at my at DKW several years ago, and we became really good friends. Now Joe lives in Germany these days, but we still keep in touch. Yeah, and so I messaged Joe afterwards and say, "Hey Joe, I just did this podcast. It's really really good. Would you like to do it?" He went, "Sure," and that's what happened. So yeah,
That's pretty cool, though. That's pretty cool that you have a podcast, and there's also a really good podcast. I want to say a couple people in a few minutes, but sometimes I listen to podcasts. Let's say guys go on, not you obviously, because that was a fun podcast, but guys
yeah,
go on these podcasts, and the person that interviews like doesn't know anything about them. They didn't do their research, and
no,
it's like awkward. But this was, again, it reminded me of Drink Shots. That's the name of it. It's Drink Shots. So people just go out there and they talk and they sit there, and it was just like it was a really free flowing conversation. It
it
made
was, yeah,
sense.
yeah, definitely.
Definitely, and hopefully, I know George was a better podcast than mine, but big shout out to George and all the great stuff there. But want to say hello to our friend Mr. Taylor Truth. So I gave Taylor a big shout out too, because
Ah,
Taylor
yes,
has got Coming Out Championship Wrestling's next show on
yeah,
May the
yes.
4th. May the 4th. Maybe you'll be there on that one too. Would you like to
We
be there on that one?
we were offered a spot, but obviously we were offered a spot in their battle royal. But and Taylor knows this himself. He understands this. We couldn't travel all that way just to be in a battle royal. It wouldn't
It's
be
tough. I know. It's not easy.
exactly. You know what I mean?
Totally.
If there was extra spot on the card for an actual full length match, then we would have done it. But it's just traveling all that way just for maybe
I know
to
it's
book
it's
something.
it's
Yeah,
not
yeah.
easy.
It's just yeah. And
Definitely
so yeah,
not
yeah,
easy.
he understood and he understood that as well, which is fine. So yeah.
And we all understand that, and we also know that CCW can still follow anywhere in the links below. And Tears and Blood and a Brew Dog make a perfect blend. They are tag team specialists. I get that completely. For sure. You guys are definitely, I have
Yeah,
no doubt, going to be on to bigger and better things. And that's going to start here coming up at Miners Mania 3, where you're going to be in the ring upcoming against Johnny Flashback and now a submission match. Now, don't tell us how you're going to win,
yeah.
but I'm going to get to that thought in a second. And Maverick Matt Williams next Friday as well. So let's obviously, as we're getting toward the final thoughts of the show here first, let me give you, do you have any final thoughts ahead of New Empire next Friday, first of all, against Maverick Matt Williams?
Listen, it's the opportunity I've been waiting for a long time. I've been doing this 8 years. I've never had a chance to actually go home and wrestle. The Greater Manchester area. This is my first time of ever doing that. So whether win, lose, or draw, it's a big opportunity for me. So I'm looking forward to that in particular.
For sure, no question about that. And it'll start, hopefully leads to bigger and better things here at New Empire. And I love Bolton Town Wrestling. So Bolton Town Wrestling has always been a company. Listen, I've had Bentley on like even more times than you. I think I've had Bentley on like 10 times. I think
That,
I think he
that must
might.
be some. That must be some sort of record.
I think RP Davis might have the record because I've had RPD on longer, but I want to say Bentley probably surpassed RPD because Bentley comes on like every few months, whereas RPD at this point, it's like RPD is a big deal now. It's like if I speak to RPD, it's like like, okay, can I have you on? But I don't ask him as often. So I'd probably say Bentley probably has the edge over that. But yes, Bolton Town Wrestling, love Bolton Town. So many guys on that show that have been friends of Sportswire Radio. And I know that you're going to do some great things there. But, I'm excited to ask you about this. And what would be your final thoughts ahead of this coming Saturday, Miners Mania 3, Johnny Flashback, now in a submission match? What would you like to say to Mr. Flashback? Final
Mr.
words ahead of Saturday. Yep.
Mr. Flashback, like I said, you are what's standing in my way of making a good first impression at Collar Rape. So if I have to make an example out of you and make you tap out, it's what I'm going to do.
Interesting. Because Flashback again, this is such a this is such an intriguing. What a great show, by the way. I mean, you got so many great matches here. I mean, we were talking about this off the air yesterday, and it's such a stacked card. It's every time I talk CCW, it's always a stacked card. But I think this might be the most stacked card they've ever had because just you think about Jam and Dagan, Dalton and Adrian,
Yeah,
Nerds and Sugar Ray Taylor, the heavy hearts there. Your match, and then Cheese and Hybrid. I mean, it's just, and you still got great stuff ahead. In between that, you got Persona wrestling. I mean, how about Persona in his match, with Spawn? I mean, that's
yeah,
a war
exactly.
we've been going on for months. You could just go on and on and on
Former
for all the.
friends and and now a bit of rivals.
Oh
So
my goodness, people are still almost still taken back at what happened there between those two. But, it's a great card. I can't wait to talk about the fallout from it. We have more coverage ahead of CCW now, starting with you once again. And I couldn't think of a better person to have inducted as our final member of our sixth class and our 60th members. I have one more question before
yeah,
closing. I know I've asked you this question before, but now you're a Hall of Famer officially. The 581 days at Immortal. You've obviously been a part of things at DKW. Shout out to DKW, by the way. DKW doing a great job out there. A lot of great things they have ahead. But is there a moment that you feel has been like your most Hall of Fame like moment now that you're actually officially in the Sports by Radio Hall of Fame?
the most Hall of Fame moments for me. There's a couple that stand. Am I allowed to name like a couple of
You could
things
say
that stand?
anything you want, of course. You know that. You always floor is open to anything you want.
Well, the number one was winning my first championship, and that was the Immortal
I know you
Wrestling
spoke about that
fighting
before. Yep.
title. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Number two was I wanted what's called the showcase title at DKW,
Yes.
and I beat, in my opinion, one of the best wrestlers in the country, a guy called Taylor James, in order to do
Yes.
that. Yeah. So
Yes.
yeah, it's a beat to be the fact I beat him is just unbelievable. I think me and Dalton have been tagging now for nearly 2 years, but for me, nothing beats that first time. That first time
Yes.
we tagged together. I'm upset that Ensol's no longer around. I was really, really upset about that. But that first tag match we had there was just it was great fun.
You always remember the first. You always remember the first
Yeah.
match that you had. Yep.
The Carnage match with Jam Dog last year was great fun. It was great fun. So
Oh,
yeah, so
Jam is
yeah.
just so he's so
Yeah,
awesome.
with
Jam.
Tabby in my corner, and stuff. It was great. It was great fun. Yeah.
And you might have been the luckiest man of them all because you had Tabby in your corner, right? That's the
Yeah,
running joke of
yeah,
people. I'm not going to get there because we're a family show on Sportswire, but
yeah, exactly. Yeah,
big shout out. But Tabby's doing a great job. In all seriousness, Tabby does a great job, and
yeah.
everything in
And
CCW.
finally, also at Carnage last year, and this was a match, and we're still hoping to do a rematch one day. It was me and Dalton against the Modern Day Mafia last year. That was probably our best tag match to date, in my opinion.
Yeah, that's interesting because the Mafia we haven't seen them in CCW, whether it's Carnage or CCW in a
Yeah.
while, so I don't know.
But there's
You
other
know,
places we go to where hopefully, if me and Don get the job, we'd love, because Joel, you can ask Joel Cobra and
oh,
Dave
I love
Douglas
Joe Cobra. I love Joe Cobra.
and Uncle Ralph this as well. That somewhere sometime they want the rematch as well because we still hold a 1-0 record over them. That's the
Yeah,
thing.
I mean, I would love personally. I'm going to be biased. I would love to see it in CCW because CCW is really the
Yeah,
company that I love the most, to be honest. But I wouldn't mind seeing it in Bolton Town. Bolton Town would be a company that I think
yeah,
would be a good second for me. Then Bolton
yeah,
Town, I love what they do in Bolton Town. Bolton Town is a great company. You get a mix of everything. But I would love to see it in CCW. And I'm
yeah,
agreeing with Taylor. Yes, the match was brilliant. I think Joel. I spoke to Joel about that match when it happened a while ago. I
yeah.
know I spoke to Joel off the air, and I hope Joel is doing well. And I was supposed to get Joel on about a couple of months ago, but we'll figure it out. We'll definitely do that. But I'm excited. Yeah, everybody else should be excited because CCW's got their biggest show yet. It's going to be their best show yet. The best is yet to come, and we're going to make sure we pull that up one more time. But I want to give you the floor, my friend. Anything else you want to share, plug, or say? And it's been an honor. Yep.
Like I said, support pro wrestling no matter where it is.
Amen.
Like I said, follow me on Champagne Charlie Vintage 92 on Instagram. I wrestle for DKW, Immortal Wrestling, CCW, soon Bolton Town Wrestling, CUKPW. There's more coming down the line soon. Not been announced yet, so I'm not going to get into it. But this year's gonna be a really good year.
Oh, absolutely. No,
Yeah,
listen, I always tell wrestlers at this point, if you can't say something, don't say it here on Sportswire Radio. So that way we can, not get in trouble for that. But I'm so excited about, most importantly, Miners Mania 3. You can see it here. I put the banner up. Also, your Twitter. Instagram. We have that here. CCW's Twitter, I meant to say, is right on the bottom. But we've got the banner there. We've got your Instagram. So make sure you support. And again, I couldn't agree with you. All wrestling matters. Definitely, I can't wait to see you wrestle in more places. So I can see you more often now. So we don't have to wait like 9, 10 months until you come back because I want to make sure.
nah,
And next
definitely
time,
not.
we're going to get you on with Dalton, by the way. Big shout out to
Yes.
Dalton. And the next time, we're going to get Dalton inducted in the Hall of Fame. That way we can have
Oh
the
yeah,
fast inducted into the
absolutely,
Hall of Fame. We got to make sure.
absolutely, yeah.
Make sure that that's the case. And also, I'm a massive MDF fan. I've always been a fan of the Modern Day Mafia. That goes back, I don't know, 2.5, 3 years. I mean, they've wrestled everywhere. Where haven't the Modern Day Mafia wrestled? Once upon a time, they wrestled in a carnival I saw somewhere.
Do you want to know? Can I tell you a very interesting story if we've got time?
Absolutely, I got time.
What happened after the match? Not many people know this. After the match was over, we were all backstage and we were just shooting the breeze, talking. We're out in the side of the building near the car park, and Uncle Ralph pulls out a hip flask. Yeah, and we're the five of us, me, Dalton, Joel, Dave, and Uncle Ralph. We're in this circle, and we're drinking whiskey out of this hip flask.
Oh, well, Omen Black talked about whiskey just before, and you brought up whiskey. What a small world. He brought up whiskey and moonshine, which is funny. I actually don't drink at all. I basically, I'm the CM Punk, I suppose, of this old wrestling magazine. But that's such a funny story. I love Uncle Ralph, by the way. Uncle Ralph is one of my favorites.
That was a cool moment, I thought.
Oh, that's one you're going to remember. I always say this before we go. Those are the moments you remember most. When you go up and down the road, you hang out afterwards, you hang out after a show. Those special bonds that you make, that's the stuff you remember more than, let's say, maybe what happens in that 10 or 15 minutes in a match. That's why I love
the stories,
what the sport brings, Definitely. And I definitely want to make sure we get more moments, and I can't wait to have you back on the show and definitely talk more CCW, Carnage, Bolton Town. Love Bolton Town. And obviously in May, you got the big show there up at, in the May 17th as well, Classic UK Pro. I mean, love seeing you in all these great places. Keep up the great work, and congratulations again. It's an absolute honor to have had you as our final member of our sixth class.
My honor to be there. Thank you.
It's my honor to have you, and I couldn't think of a better person to be in our final class as the sixth class in the Sportswire Radio Hall of Fame and our 60th member. That is the one and only Mr. Champagne Charlie. My name is the Reverend Tom Bryce, your voice of all wrestling, where all wrestling matters. And I'm going to be here in about 2.5 hours with more coverage, this time with the one and only Power Surge from NEW Wrestling out there in the state of Massachusetts. He's going to talk about his actually show. He's wrestling also tomorrow. He's going to talk about a tag team match he's a part of. Plus, his really, really decorated career. He's been a power lifter. He's been a wrestler that's traveled up and down the scene. He's got a friendship with the almost kind of like what you have with Dalton Garrett and Jake Matthews, who's the Born to Battle winner, best on the card. You're going to talk about all of that here and some. So if you're on sportswireradio.org, you're going back to your regular scheduled programming. If you're on YouTube, Twitch, and Twitter, I'll be here in about 2.5 hours. And if you're following us, remember, it's All Wrestling Matters. Support CCW in the banners below. And Mustafa Khan is here live next Thursday. That'll definitely be one you'll be there or be square for. But until then, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. On the number one global radio station that is Sportswire Radio. One more time, happy belated birthday to you, Champagne Charlie. Hope this
Thank you very
birthday was the
much.
best one yet. And also thoughts and prayers to Alfie Nerds, his family. We are thinking of you, Alfie. We love you. We hope to see you soon on Sportswire. We're praying for you. I know it's a tough time, but hang in there. And good night, everybody. I'll see everybody in a little while because All Wrestling Matters on Sportswire